Hey everybody, it's Gary Lucas, your old friend, and today is the 2nd of February. It's Tuesday. I can't believe we're already in February, and it's got one of those numerical mystical dates, it being 2/2/21. Well, there's 222, a multiple of 666, and by QAnon standards, that means, what does it mean? It means that Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to protest about this, but no, I don't know. This really, I'm more or less happy. I hope everybody is too, with the way things are going. I just tuned in to Jen Psaki and her press conference. I think she's quite a competent press secretary for the new administration, and the fact that they're doing briefings every day in comparison to the last administration, who did them very infrequently, if not all, except for during the spring when Trump saw a good opportunity to try and steal a little limelight for himself to pontificate about nothing in particular, but the efficacy of hydroxychloroquine, especially when introduced into the body, or an ultraviolet light by it was an unspecified gross intrusion, I think he was describing. But in any case, I'm here to play for you today, and we sure have a lot of snow on the ground. Not as much as they predicted as usual, but at least a foot out there, and it's still snowing out there for a bit, so I don't know, it's difficult to navigate. So I've been hunkered down in here, basically, and that was something my little polytuner, courtesy of TC Electronics, this great Danish company who send me stuff once in a while. I have an endorsement with them and a couple of tone prints. I really love their products, but it just popped right out of the headstock. And why is that? I don't know, maybe it got excited. I was getting excited. That's an old number, and that, I think the original title of that is Level the Playing Field, which was somewhat ironic insofar as with the advent of digitization, particularly as it applies to music, we all were informed that, in fact, the playing field had been leveled. Everybody, including anyone on an amateur status, and this is no disrespect to amateurs, because the meaning of the word amateur is love of the music as opposed to a professional musician who is doing it for a living, maybe not for love, maybe for money. If you can imagine such a thing as situations being what they are now with money being spent on recorded music. And don't forget, recorded music is your best entertainment value. I think that was a slogan way back in the 70s, late 70s, courtesy of NARM, the National Association of Record Manufacturers. I think people's limited income, most of us these days, are going to more important things like food, shelter, medical care. Speaking of which, I can't wait to get vaccinated. I don't care which one it is. I'd do the Sputnik even. My friend Emir Kusturica is raving about that vaccine. It's widely available in Serbia. I have a good friend in Belgrade, an enchanting city, who says that one is readily available, and I think also a Chinese vaccine. But Serbia is not in NATO, is one of the last holdouts, and they're proud of that. But if you get a chance to visit there, folks, after it's safe, I would urge you to do it. It's a beautiful country. It's been riven for 20, 30 years by internecine warfare, going way back, unfortunately, with prejudices from well before World War II and World War I even. And anyway, but I just like to play there and visit it, and had a fantastic gig in Belgrade with the Magic Band, the reunion tribute I did about 2004 or 5 for a couple years with ex-Magic Band members, or should I say former Magic Band members. Okay, well, that can segue into a little story too. I hope you enjoyed my piece about Don Van Vliet, Captain Beefheart, and Frank Zappa that ran recently in Please Kill Me. It's still up there. And one of the fallout, funny stories that I recall from when that project ran aground, when Don decided to just concentrate on painting rather than music for his living, which I don't blame him in retrospect. So the Magic Band formed, and we had some amazing gigs, mainly in the UK. We played at Glastonbury, on the jazz stage, the biggest festival in the world, I think. Just the most people, about 3 times the size of Woodstock. And that was a lot of fun. We also had this gig in Belgrade, and we flew in there, and I'm not sure if I think I'd played there before. I did a lot of playing in former Yugoslavia once they more or less opened the doors in the 90s to foreign musicians. And so, yeah, I had a wonderful time. We played in this old palace, which is standing right by a river. And I remember we came for a sound check, and there was a fan, ecstatic, elated, probably high on something, screaming and yelling and like, I don't believe it. It's like, his mind had been blown to see some of us there on stage preparing to play. And, Don had a whole peculiar thing about the Magic Band. Vis-a-vis anybody trying to do any of their own music, for instance, that was a no-no. And, it's one reason I chose to leave after a certain point in time, because I thought I'll be completely I will be effaced, not by myself, but just by playing along with this program, because I wanted to do my own music, really, as did probably everybody in that band. Anyway, the last Beefheart album I did play on, and I was full member on this record of the band, is Ice Cream for Crow, which came out in 1982. And I did convince Harvey Leeds, who was the head of radio promotion at Epic, to release a single, mainly to radio. Maybe some commercial copies got out. The A-side was Ice Cream for Crow, and the B-side was an instrumental called Light Reflected Off the Oceans of the Moon, with Don's peculiar spelling of oceans, Oceands. He liked to smear the English language like that occasionally around, and by God, that was a very avant-garde track. I mean, the A-side had a certain, shall we say, boogie beat. I know somebody heard it to me and said, Disco Don. Well, it's not quite that, but it chugs along, and I think it's very danceable. The other side, though, actually was the backing track for Hey Garland, I Dig Your Tweed Coat, which is a poem of Don's going way back. I think it was published in Rolling Stone when they had him on the cover. And anyway, it's a good, noisy, experimental racket that stops and starts. Very energetic. We did put our all into the recording of it. No overdubs that I can think of, maybe except Don sax. Yeah. And, well, I got it placed on the jukebox down the road in my local here, the White Horse Tavern, I might have mentioned. That is where I took Jeff Buckley right after he came over to this very apartment, and we started playing and decided, I had a brainstorm of inviting him into my band, Gods and Monsters. And for years, they had this, courtesy of me, up on the jukebox there. And I'd like nothing better than to go over on a Sunday morning. Everybody was hungover, at about 11:30 a.m., 12. They had a halfway decent bacon and eggs platter for breakfast. But of course, you needed a Bloody Mary to go along with it, if you were so inclined. And I would punch up Light Reflected off the Oceans of the Moon to just wake everybody up. And I cleared a few rooms, and I can definitely extemporize for a long time about the power of Beefheart's most radical music to not only exercise evil spirits in the room, but to drive actual evil human people, evil spirits, out of rooms, break leases and all that. It had a certain majesty and power. Anyway... love that chord. I entered a composition once. It was a co-write with a French band called Tanger, which was Tangier, like the country, like the city in Morocco, and did a whole record with these guys, co-producing it. And I wrote some songs on them which were really quite good. One was called Oui Peut-être, which is yes, maybe, perhaps. Really good. I think it charted over there. And then this other one was called À toi le seul. Beautiful, beautiful song. And they had a big budget. And we did pre-production in Morocco. That was one of my best little travel escapades. I met the A&R guy in Amsterdam. I was finishing a tour, I think it was, or no, in Paris. I played in Amsterdam, then I met him in Paris, and then we flew to meet the band in Tanger, where they were occupying and renting a palais, which is a beautiful old mansion that had a view of the Straits of Gibraltar. It was just stunning. I would love to go back to Morocco, especially with the recent rapprochement there with Israel in this country. And in any case, we wrote this song, and we got a budget to go ahead and do orchestration. And we brought in a very, very talented guy who's no longer with us, a guy named David Whitaker, who had done string arrangements going back to the Andrew Loog Oldham Orchestra, my old friend, the Rolling Stones producer and manager, Andrew. He did a lot for Immediate Records. And in fact, I believe he did the arrangement of the sample that became the main body of the song Bittersweet Symphony by the Verve, of which there was a lot of controversy around vis-a-vis authorship and rights to use this as a sample and whatnot. But Whitaker was a really great guy and kind of a Francophile, a British arranger who'd worked throughout the music scene in Britain from, I believe, like the late big band era, and then had specialized pretty much after the 60s era. He moved to France, where he was based, had a lovely English wife too, but they were Francophiles, and he did a lot of work in the studio. So we got a hold of him, and we got actually into Olympic Studios in Barnes to record this orchestra for a couple of songs that we overdubbed on the songs. And this is one of them, and I'll just never forget to hear the application of an orchestra against my music has got to be one of the most thrilling things I've ever felt, and achieved. It was just magic. But the last chord was this harmonic, which is one of my favorites. This one, which has a lot of dissonance going on in it. But I gave him all the notes. I don't even know the name of this chord. It's got a lot of diminished seventh action and augmented this and that. And I just knew that, I thought it was an appropriate way to end this kind of titanic orchestral maelstrom of a song. Billy Ficca played on it. I remember I got to import him as the drummer on the session. But the orchestra looked like they were having problems. And Whitaker, asked me, because I was there in the booth, like, are you sure about this chord? Like, it was a strange chord to end a pop song. But I said, oh, absolutely. It's like, it has to end that way. And, we checked the charts that he had come out. He had, derived to make sure all the notes that I'm playing right here were ringing through. And see if you can get a hold of the album. It's called Le Détroit, spelled like Le Detroit, which means the border in French. It's a great album, and it probably would, if you like my music, you're definitely going to like some of these tracks on this album, if it's still available. It came out on French Mercury Records about 2001, I think it was, 2002. Anyway, I digress, and I wanted to say thank you, Dennis Cripps, for sending me, a whole lot of money for a whole bunch of my merchandise. Good on you. I would encourage it, and everybody, if you go to GaryLucas.com, you'll see a merch page button. Check it out. There's all sorts of goodies in there. And there's some vinyl, too. I mean, I have a few copies left of Ordeal of Civility, the record Jerry Harrison produced, the last Gods and Monsters studio album. And I've got a few copies and more on the way of Gary Lucas Plays Bohemian Classics that Faust Records, my friend Richard Motter, put out in the Czech Republic on vinyl. And I mean, I get it with vinyl. I mean, I got a lot of it. I haven't sold it. I know there's gold in this here record shelf, although I'm not the kind of guy who's going to go through and sell these piece by piece. I know many do. I don't really want to part with it, and that's just me. But the one thing I have to say about vinyl, because there's a whole view that, hence because of digitization, there's no need for any actual storage units of music anymore, other than a Spotify app or something like that. But if you're going on the road, I just want to say, to carry the same amount of albums on vinyl versus a CD, especially a CD in an ecologically friendly package like this one, this double CD. This is quite lightweight, and there's a good surface to autograph it and everything. If people want souvenirs and live shows, this is what I would recommend. Vinyl is also great, and people are sometimes grumbling to me that I don't have this or that in vinyl, but the dirty little secret is the equivalent amount of vinyl versus the same number of CDs weighs about 3 times as much. So unless you have kind of a military operation of touring infrastructure surrounding you, i.e. a band bus and, a dedicated seller of your merch, it's just cumbersome. I mean, you'll kill yourself trying to schlep this stuff around. And my whole thing has always been, to quote Robert Fripp, a small, mobile, intelligent unit or something like that. He was always urging musicians to adopt the stance. I kind of adopted it as my fallback survival stance because I'd hate to come away at the end of a tour at a deficit situation, which is all too possible. I mean, especially the overhead goes up with hotels, blah, blah, feeding and housing everybody, and providing 24-hour psychiatric service to the band. It's really not my thing. I get it, though. I get it. And I'd love to be in that position. The Learjet especially would appeal to me. But I think that we're out of time. Anyway, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And please check out my new album. There's links, I think, at the header of this where you can probably stream it and listen to it for nothing on Spotify if you made that kind of deal with them. And I'm getting wonderful feedback and reviews. And thank you, every critic and writer and fan who've left comments on my page here on Facebook. It's like incredibly humbling and gratifying. I just did it and threw it out there and blew it a kiss, and hoped that it would find you like a message in a bottle. And I'm glad it's finding a lot of people. Okay. Love to you now, and I'll see you on Thursday. Take care, stay safe, wear that mask. Bye now.